Got material ready.
Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Madera City Council. Today is Wednesday, December 20th, 2023. It is now 6 p.m. The Madera City Council meetings are open to the public. This meeting will also be available for public viewing and participation through Zoom. Members of the public may also observe the live stream meeting on the city's website at www.madera.gov/live. Members of the public may comment on agenda items at the meeting or remotely through an electronic meeting via phone by dialing 669-900-6833, enter ID 841-7883, 9054, hashtag. Comments will also be accepted via email at citycouncilpubliccomment@madera.gov or by regular mail at 205 West 4th Street, Madera, California, 93637. I hereby call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Alicia, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Garcia?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos?
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Here.
Councilmember Montes?
Here.
Councilmember Evans?
Here.
Councilmember Mejia?
Here.
And Councilmember Villegas?
Here.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Would you all please rise for the invocation led by Pastor John Purcell of the Believers Church of Madera.
I don't believe he's in attendance this evening, Mayor.
Councilwoman Evans, would you do us the honors, please?
We all know that Jesus is the reason for the season. And without him, there would be none of us. So I just want to say Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for your Son that died on the cross. Thank you for blessing each and every one of us, Father, with everlasting life. Thank you for continuing to watch over us and keep us. Thank you for the holiday season. Thank you for this council, for this city, and for all those that are in attendance. We come together now in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, as we say thank you and amen.
Would you all please maintain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Joseph Heber.
Please salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now move on to the approval of the agenda. I will now ask staff if there's any changes to the agenda. Seeing none, my fellow council members, do you have any comments or changes to the agenda, or I will ask for a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda as follows.
Second.
Motion to approve the agenda by Councilwoman Evans, second by Councilmember Villegas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Agenda is approved. We will now move on to public comment. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked but are not required to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the mayor has the option of asking the speaker to withhold that comment until that item is called. Comments on items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusion should be drawn if the council does not respond to public comment at this time. Are there any members of the public wishing to address the council under public comment? If so, please step up to the podium.
So Mayor and council members, I typically don't address it the council during public comment, but I was out for most of last week, so I simply neglected to add something on the agenda, and that's an acknowledgement of Gary Conti, who's going to be separating from the city here at the first week of January. Gary stepped into a planning division that was it was in a tough spot when Gary got here. We had a village deed. We had a lot of land use entitlements in process. And Gary came in and helped us during an extremely difficult period. Gary was the project manager on the city's largest private development project in the city's history, approving over 10,500 homes, 2 million square feet of commercial, and roughly 350,000 square feet of industrial. A very large project, equivalent to 35,000 people. To give some context to that, the city is about 67,000 people right now, so it's going to significantly grow our community. And Gary has done a remarkable job. He's very knowledgeable, and I simply want to publicly acknowledge Gary for his efforts, and I want to thank him, and I want to wish him the best of luck. So thanks, Gary.
Good evening, everybody. I never been here before, even though I used to live in Madera. My name is Karina Salas, and I'm here to ask the city for some kind of support. As I say, my name is Karina Salas, and I've been involved in the community for different little activities. Now I got involved in something that I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm trying my best because time ago, about probably 4 years ago, my son was 11 years old, and he wanted always to play soccer. So I decided to enroll him, and I enrolled him in the indoor in Fresno. And by being there, there were many parents, they were pretty new in there as I was. So we made a team, and suddenly I was the coach back then without having no idea what I was doing. So that was my first time being there. And as the first time, we brought second place from Fresno to Madera without any knowledge. After that, I decided to keep on going because the kids were very excited. And the second time trying, we brought home the first place, which was pretty impressive for us because we, as I say, not experienced, and we were playing against pretty good teams. They will have a lot of experience. So now, after a few years, without, with COVID and not doing many activities, every time that I meet these kids, now they're teenagers, and they always telling me the same thing to kind of put the team together again. And I recently, did it again without, again, not too much experience, but I like to do something always for the community. And that's what I'm doing now, trying to support teenagers because they're not little kids no more. They're teenagers now. We're hoping to bring at least second place this time. And that's why I'm here. Without support, that's not going to be possible. So this is the team that we have, and this is what I need support. They're teenagers now, and I brought a letter of a sponsorship letter right here. It's right here. You guys I can just leave it, and I'll be more than happy to provide any more information if anybody has a question or anything. During COVID, I also decided to do something to grow as a person, and I became a civil wedding official, which I'm offering my services to at a lower cost than anybody else. I'm also a florist, and I just passed my notary public test. So I'm here because I really need support, and thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry I'm a little bit nervous because that's too fast, 3 minutes.
No, you're fine. You're thank you very much.
3 minutes.
What you could do for us is provide your information, your contact information to Alicia, and she would be happy to pass that on to the rest of us on the council.
Great. I'm gonna leave the letter and my business cards. If any questions, right here.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. One more second. And when we brought the first place from Fresno, the mayor back then, Andy, he was there to supporting us too. So I'll thank him, even though we didn't ask for any economic support, he was there present. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment? Anyone wishing to speak under public comment, please come up to the podium. Seeing none, are there any written or Zoom public comments, Alicia?
We have none, Mayor.
Righty. Thank you very much. Then we will close public comment. There are no written communications, presentations, introductions, or workshops. We will now move on to the consent calendar. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the council may request an item be removed from the consent calendar and it will be considered separately. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak under public comment regarding the consent calendar? Are there any written or Zoom comments, Alicia?
None, Mayor.
We will now close public comment and I'll bring it back to my colleagues for discussions and or a motion.
Move to approve consent as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent calendar by Councilmember Montes, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We will now move on to public hearings. Item C. Item C1 is a public hearing related to annexation of certain properties into Zone of Benefit 51 to the City of Madera Landscape Maintenance District, MLD, zone for fiscal year 2024-2025. Nicole, do you have this item?
I do. Let me share my screen with you real quick.
You?
You should all see that there. So yes, as the mayor said, we have a public hearing tonight for the Landscape Maintenance District, LMD, into the citywide landscape and lighting assessment district for fiscal year 24-25. The purpose of this meeting is pursuant to section 22554 of the Landscape and Lighting Act. Annexation of any parcel into a zone of benefit requires both a public hearing as well as a published notice of public hearing. As discussed in the meeting in November or October, I believe, at the end of October, public notice was posted in the 11/10/22 or 23 edition of the Madera Tribune. And this public meeting is an opportunity for current property owners in each zone of benefit to comment on the proposed annexation. The reason for annexation is new development within the city is subject to annexation into a landscape maintenance district zone of benefit. Assessments are levied to pay for each property's fair share of landscape maintenance within the zones associated with their parcel, and that's landscaping maintenance in the city right-of-way, not individual property landscaping. And these properties are assessed fees that are outlined on the next slide, and they will be included in the next annual engineer's report. So we have quite a few. We have, these are all going to be in zone 51. First one is Sherwood Apartments, assessment parcel $98.56, which is equivalent to $6.16 per dwelling unit. And in this case, per dwelling unit is anything equivalent to a home, whether it be an apartment or an actual standalone, home. We have Grove Gardens Apartment Complex. It has two different parcels with different units on it. First parcel is $42 and $3.50 per dwelling unit. $162.54 per parcel on the second one, which is equivalent to $9.03 per unit. Belava Apartments has two parcels, only one of which has an assessment, which is $9.92 for the parcel, $1.24 for 8 units. The second one has no dwellings on it. It's simply I believe it's a community park of some type. Cal Pacific Supply has, I believe, 4 parcels. It spells next page, and they are all, the exception of one, $76.48 for the first 3, I believe. Yes. And the last one is $344.42. Madera Industrial Warehouse, 1 parcel, $870. Sugar Pine Village has 3 parcels, each at $3.50 per unit. And you can see it's $42, $98, and $42 per parcel. And the last being the Nas Sixplex, which is $15.86. And that has no dwelling units. This is the location of each property. We have Sherwood Apartments here, roughly on the corner of Sherwood and Owens, a little bit to the west. Grove Gardens Apartments on Maple and Noble Streets. We have Belava Apartments on Wilson and Davis and kind of in between there and Brush Street. Cal Pacific Supply, kind of on the corner of Almond and Granada. Madera Industrial Warehouse on Schnorr Avenue, just south of Industrial, so just south of Town and Country Park. Sugar Pine Village, which is, I believe it's on, I think Lewis Street is the actual address right there, just next to 99. And the Nas Sixplex, which is on the corner of 6th Street and I Street, just down the street from City Hall. The recommendation from staff would be to conduct the public hearing and receive any public comment, and then adopt a resolution to confirm the diagrams and assessments set forth in the staff report. Levy the assessment set forth in staff's report. This occurs as part of the next annual report, as I mentioned. And finally, authorize the city clerk to file the engineer's report with the Madera County Assessor's Auditor's Office. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public wishing to comment under public comment on this item? Alicia, do we have any written or Zoom comments regarding this item? Is anybody on Zoom?
None, Mayor.
Thank you. I will now close public comment on this item, and I'll bring it back to my colleagues for discussion and or a motion.
Motion to approve C1?
Second.
Motion to approve item C1 by Councilwoman Evans, second by Councilmember Montes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and motion passes. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
We will now move on to item C2. Are we going to have this item at 7 o'clock exactly?
Yes.
So then we can bypass this one and go on to the next one. Okay. And just to let you know that this item is informational, is only item C2. We will bypass that. We will now move on to item D. Petitions, bids, resolutions, ordinances, and agreements. D1 is authorizing resolution for the local assistance specified grants. Mr. Hebert. I might need some help here. Didn't work the way we did. Sure. Oh, I was hitting here. Okay.
Time around.
Okay, Joe Hebert, Parks Director. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, guests. This is item D1, which was a request to authorize a resolution for local assistance specified grants. As you all know, the city was awarded $500,000 under the local assistance specified grants program. This program is administered by the state of California, Department of Parks and Recreation, Office of Grants and Local Services. The purpose of this grant is for Lionstown and Country Trail Park System upgrades. This was awarded, if you remember, we had a press conference a while back with Senator Ana M. Caballero awarding the city $500,000 and Assembly Member Esmeralda Soria $1.1 million. The grant process key dates are the performance period is from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2026. The resolution is to be submitted as soon as possible, is what we've been told by the state. Our timeline is to have a contract signed and returned by January 31st, 2024, a project completion date by December 31st, 2025, a project completion packet submitted by January 31st, 2026. The city has budgeted $915,712 in the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Costs incurred after the period that I mentioned earlier, July 1st, 2022, are all eligible for reimbursement. The city has secured engineering services from Odell Engineering in the amount of $164,000. This is per resolution number 22-178. Odell will do design and restoration plans for the trail system. They'll do a construction documentation package and ensure code compliance. The recommendation is that we adopt a resolution accepting the amount of $500,000 from the state of California, Department of Parks and Recreations for the Lionstown and Country Trail System upgrades, and naming the city manager as the authorized representative. And I open to any questions.
Thank you, Joseph. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on regarding item D1 regarding the specified grants? Seeing none, Alicia, do we have any Zoom participants or written comments regarding item D1?
We have none, Mayor.
Thank you. Bring it close public comment on item D1 and bring it back to my colleagues for discussion and or a motion.
Motion to approve $500,000.
Second.
Are you sure? Motion to approve item D1 by Councilwoman Evans, second by Councilmember Villegas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you, Joseph.
Okay. So you've got.
So you have number 2?
I've got number 2.
Item D2, demolition of Rotary Park Skate Park Office Concession Building Budget Amendment. See if I can.
Oh, I might need some help, Alicia. I don't know why I have trouble with this thing.
I'm gonna stop sharing this.
Okay, this is item D2. And this is for the demolition of Rotary Skate Park, the office and concession building, and we're requesting a budget amendment. The zero gravity skate park that's located at Rotary Park, we all know this, it's somewhat of an eyesore right now.
1 second.
Are we
Try
not?
that again.
Okay.
Rotate that camera a little bit.
Okay. Which one is it? 2E2. Okay.
Quick. I said he
Set everything to see on too.
No. And action.
Better right there, yeah.
Action. Cut.
See.
I think it's good right there.
You're watching it online, everything's gonna start shaking.
Earthquake.
D2.
Mhm. That's why you make the big buckets.
Same one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, item D2, demolition of the Rotary Skate Park concession stand, office and concession stand. Why is this not working? Okay, the zero gravity skate park that's located at Rotary Park. The zero gravity skate park is specifically located at 920 North Gateway Drive, and we recommend demolition of this building, which is located there. As you can see, this is on a good day. These pictures, so that's probably the best it's going to ever look. The historical background of this is in 2002, 2003, sometime during that time, the city council directed the then city manager to evaluate the development of a skate park facility to serve the city residents. A committee was formed comprised of adults, young people, to primarily study design issues and park locations. In November 2002, a skate park design report was prepared, submitted, and approved by the then city council. In February, April, and October of 2004, the city manager at that time and city attorney provided the council with information on estimated construction, operation, and maintenance costs. In October 2004, a petition was signed by well over 500 people in support of the construction of the skate park, and it was submitted to council. In 2005, a total of $689,190 was approved under resolution number 2005-254 for the construction of the skate park. A 5-year lease was approved between the Community Action Partnership of Madera County and the city for oversight, maintenance, and supervision of the skate park. The lease agreement after 5 years was not with CAPMC was not renewed. The building has served as a concession, sales building, and administrative office building, and more recently, as storage of skate park janitorial maintenance-related items. We've assessed the conditions of the building, and it's recommended that we demolish the whole thing. We've and experienced numerous issues with trespassing, tagging to the interior and exterior of the building. There's a lot of damage to the interior, a lot of damage to the there's wire theft of electrical related items. That's overall a safety hazard. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of an eyesore to the park in general. This is what it looks like. This is what I said on a typical day is what we, deal with. And at some point we had reached a point where we're not even sure we can continue. We can keep up with just removing the graffiti. It's that bad. Some more pictures. You can see where the wire the wall's been degraded, and some more graffiti. The cost to do this is the demolition cost itself is about $10,593. There's public works and parks maintenance expenses, $1,000 each. So a total for $12,593 is what we're requesting. And we're recommending that we adopt a resolution amending the city's fiscal year 2023-24 budget, approving a related expenditure line item related to the demolition of the skate park office concession building costs, and which will cost $12,593. And I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Joseph. Is there any public comment? Anyone wishing to speak under public comment regarding item D2, demolition of the skate park? Seeing none. Alicia, do we have any written comments regarding this?
We have none, Mayor.
Do we have any Zoom participants regarding this?
We have none.
Okay, then we will close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues for discussion and or a motion. Councilmember Montes.
I just have a question, Joe. Is there an opportunity for you to do some team building and stress relief at the same time to get your team out there and sleds it down? No, that's good. Sorry. Silly comment.
Yeah. We offered to do some demo work, but I think there's some liability issues, and I think our risk manager would have me crucified if I did. So,
Councilwoman Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just curious if there's any knowledge as to why the lease was not renewed.
I tried to do some research on that. I have no idea. That was back in 2005. I really don't know. When I got here, I just know what I was dealing with, as I assumed this role. We looked at some other alternatives, but I think the best solution at this point, I don't have the manpower to keep that up, and it's a never-ending battle. So I think we had some other plans for Rotary Park, and we're keeping the skate park itself. It's just the concession stand. That building is not doing us any good.
Thank you. And I actually do have another question. There's a resident that had been wanting to know whether the graffiti on the skate park, was that going to be addressed at some point?
Yeah, we do have a plan for that. I've got my hands full right now just with trying to get that demoed. But yeah, the plan is it's going to take us a lot of liquid material to get rid of that, and so we'll address that. But I want to get the demo project done first.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with demolishing the facility. What would take its place? Anything at all? Just a flat surface?
Just flat. Yeah, just flat. We explored some other opportunities, but I don't see a path forward on that.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Move to approve item D2.
Second.
Mr. Montes, and who's second?
Evans.
Councilwoman Evans. Motion to approve item D2 by Councilmember Montes, second by Councilwoman Evans. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you, Joseph.
Okay, I don't know why this one keeps popping up. I might need you again, Liam. The old one keeps popping up.
So you also have item D3.
Got item D3. You're stuck with me.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. Pleasure to hear from you. Mexican American Center cleanup and structural engineering assessment. That's what I see. It's the same one. Oh, there you go. Oh, we gotta go here. Oh, okay. Okay, this is item D3. You can kind of see a theme for this evening is looking at blighted buildings. The Mexican American Center cleanup structural engineering assessment.
The Mexican American Center is located at 716 Columbia Street. There were some unanticipated costs accrued requiring council attention and budget adjustment. One was the cleanup of the interior, and the other is a structural engineering assessment in order to assess the viability of the building, the structure overall. This is a map where it's located. You can see by the water tower. On October 2nd of this year, the police department responded to a call at the center. Parks and Community Service Department staff conducted a site visit to follow up and assess damages. It looked like there were folks had moved into the building, and we took a tour. It was a mess. There was an additional walkthrough that was conducted by the city manager, myself, the human resources director, chief building official, building inspectors, and the public works department staff. The plan of action that we came up was immediate cleanup of the center, and that occurred on December 5th of this year. The other action item that we took was a completion of a structural engineering assessment to determine if a structural retrofit of the building is financially feasible and in the best interest of the city. Vendor was contacted, a walkthrough was completed, and the report is pending. The cost for this is $11,100. There was cleanup costs is $6,100 and the assessment of $5,000. The recommendation is that we adopt a resolution amending the city's fiscal year 2023-24 budget and approving a related expenditure line item related to the Mexican American Center cleanup efforts and structural engineering assessment. Upon receipt of structural engineering, staff will assess potential options and will present them to council. I guess the structural engineering report, just to kind of back up a little bit, that's going to help us make a decision on what we do moving forward. Right now, we're flying a little blind, so that assessment's really going to be very valuable for us. And that includes my report. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Joseph. Are there any members of the public wishing to address item G3, the Mexican American Center cleanup? Seeing none, Alicia, are there any written comments regarding this item?
We have no written and no one on Zoom.
No
Mayor.
one on Zoom. Thank you very much. We'll close public comments on item G3 and bring it back to council for comments. Councilwoman Vejina.
Thank you, Mayor. So within the report, it said that the assessment was expected to be completed on Monday. Was that completed on Monday?
Yeah, we haven't seen the report yet, though.
Okay, so that's what you meant when that was completed.
Yeah.
And then also, I was just wondering why it took more than 2 months for the cleanup.
Well, one, we didn't have the money and we weren't sure how we were going to address it. There was some going back and forth with the PD to make an inspection to determine whether there was, chemical solutions that were hazardous or to health. And so actually we got the go ahead from the PD that there was nothing that was overly hazardous there. The other thing is we got a quote from an outside source. And during that time, that 2 month time period, we found out we could use the O&E contract, which was much cheaper than what we had bid out to actually do the cleanup. So that's what took some time. So it's just finding a vendor to do it and then finding we didn't need the vendor in the first place. So that was the lag.
Okay. And then, go ahead.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Oh, no, go ahead and finish your question.
No, you could go ahead.
Somebody.
I know as we're going down the list of the demolishing, and then now we have something like this. How long has this building been vacant?
Oh, long before I got here. Since I've been here, for sure, I don't know.
I can try to answer that. Right before COVID, which is right around the time that Joe joined the team, the building was being used periodically by an AA group. The building itself, I think, has not been used regularly, or I shouldn't say regularly, extensively since the construction of the Well Center and the Pan American Center. So this building dates back to the 60s and at one point served as one of the only community centers the city had. Subsequent to this building being built, the Frank Burgon Center came online, the Well Center came online, and the Pan American Center came online. And I think what happened was the city historically just allowed the building to to slowly deteriorate. And the building's collapsing due to neglect. And during, right before COVID, it was being used by AA. A lot of those meetings stopped. And I'm not too sure where the group went, or if they stopped meeting altogether, or if they decided to go elsewhere, or due to the restrictions of COVID, they could not meet. And then eventually that's when we found that it appeared like homeless people had moved into the building. But then also on top of that, which is a little more severe, we started noticing that the floor of the building itself started to buckle. And that's why we asked a structural engineer to come in. This very well could be one of those situations where we're throwing good money after bad money. But I didn't have it. I don't think it would be appropriate to come before council to ask to demolish a building without having a better understanding or a thorough understanding of what's wrong with the building and what those costs are associated with it. The building itself is not in good shape. It's an older building, and that doesn't necessarily equate to being a bad building. But in this particular case, it's not in good shape. It looks like there's some water damage on the walls, and with the floor buckling, it's buckled in the middle in multiple places. And before we could come up with a sound recommendation, we thought it would be best to bring in a structural engineer to have a better assessment. And so that's a very long-winded response to a very brief question, Councilmember. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you, City Manager Norlo. So where the building lies, all that parcel belongs to the city?
It does. So the entire parcel, and then immediately to the north, we have the water tower. So that does belong to the city. So that would be a good place for something. Just may not be this building.
Okay. Well, I mean, just a consideration that, as we're talking about throwing, you said good money into bad money. Is that what I heard you say?
Right.
So maybe consider a private partnership where someone may be able to take over that, or maybe sell a building to be able to have better use of it other than deteriorating, demolishing it, and then obviously city picking up the tab on that. And no different when it comes to any other buildings that we demolish. Is there any interest in private partnerships to try to take over something like that and maybe make some good use of it? That'd just be my recommendation, is that we look for that. I understand these are city assets, but a lot of times if they're deteriorating, it's costing city and or taxpayers a lot more money just by allowing them to sit there and deteriorate, depreciate, and nothing coming out of it. So,
Councilwoman Evans.
Yes. And excuse me. And looking at the pictures that we have here, and you said this building was built in like in the 60s?
I believe for some reason 1961 comes to mind, Joe. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
So just curious, would there be asbestos in the paint that would possibly be in this building?
Could it be? Could be.
So if that's the case, it may not stand anyway. If there's asbestos in it, we may have to add it to the list.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why we're looking at the structural assessment. But yeah, okay, right now we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah,
because it's not in good shape, and it's going to take what you say 11,000 you guys just used already to do some cleanup on it. And then now we have to wait for an engineer to come back and assess it and then determine.
But we're going to get the report.
Right.
So we'll have a written report, and then
after that.
Then we'll go from there.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Mayor, that's it for me.
Councilmember Mejia.
My question was that I guess why is there a budget amendment request if there was money allocated for this kind of repair?
There wasn't any. This is an unanticipated expense. So we're actually staff and we've kind of talked about when we do our next budget. So we'll have a new line item for unanticipated expenses, because there's things that have come up this year that we had no way of knowing that we're going to need. The whole Mexican American Center, we've got another building that we need to assess as well. And then there's other things that we just have not, that we just, we spent some time this morning trying to figure out what would be a good number to put as a line item for unanticipated expenses or insurance reimbursable expenses, because things happen and then they come out of our budget and we don't have it. So that's what we're anticipating doing moving forward.
Oh, okay. It's just because of the alternative is a general repair, so just not emergency repairs.
Yeah,
like
if the assessment says, the building was great, and then that would be a whole different discussion. But, as the city manager said, it's in pretty bad shape. The floors were buckled. We weren't really anticipating a homeless issue in the building. We've implemented some countermeasures to prevent that from happening in the future, but that's where we're at today.
Thank you.
I took a tour of that facility, and it is in bad shape. Just from a layman's point of view, I don't think that it's worth the money to put into it to do major restructuring of that building. And so I would agree that it would probably be best, as opposed to selling it off, to go ahead and raise it and then assess the possibilities for the future at a later time. So I would agree with the staff's report that we look into demolishing it and then move on after that to see what we can do. Because I certainly see a need in that area for more green space. What that's going to look like, well, we'll have to look at that at a later time. Any further comments from my colleagues? Is there a motion?
To demolish it?
No, it's not to demolish. It's to get the engineering report and update the budget. So I move to approve item D3.
Second.
Motion to approve item D3 by Councilmember Montes and seconded by Councilmember Mejia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Motion approved. Thank you very much, Joseph. Okay, we'll move on to item D4, emergency repairs to centrifuge number 1 at wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Austin, you have this. Thank you.
And we'll give Joe a break for a few moments. Good evening.
We'll bring it back.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia, Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos, council members, staff, and guests with us this evening. This agenda point is dealing with one of the centrifuges at the wastewater treatment plant. So let's start with, what is a centrifuge? A centrifuge is like a distant cousin of a washing machine in spin cycle. It uses rotational forces to separate solids from a liquid. Now, in the wastewater context, the centrifuge is an essential piece of equipment because it helps separate solids from wastewater and allows for safer processing and reduce waste into groundwater. So as we mentioned, the wastewater treatment plant has 2 centrifuges. Centrifuge number 1 was scheduled for regular maintenance, which rebuild would include bearings and seals. And so standard procurement procedures were followed, bids were obtained, and a vendor was awarded the work to do the rebuild. So that was in January of this year. When they disassembled it in their facility, they realized that many more parts were in desperate need of repair. There were certain plates that needed welding, replacement, grinding, rebalancing, many other components. And so the rebuild price initially went from a price of about $33,000 to a little over $72,000. Now the situation, so that's regarding the centrifuge. So let's shift our focus to the perspective of the wastewater treatment plant. It has 2 centrifuges and no backup. When one of them was disassembled, the plant was running on 1 centrifuge at 100% capacity for a longer duration throughout the day and no backup. So it was critical that centrifuge number 1, which lay disassembled in a repair facility, be repaired as soon as possible because time was of the essence so the plant could handle both the incoming volume of wastewater as well as maintaining the high quality standards necessary that are determined by state guidelines. And so at that point, with the disassembled centrifuge and running on 1 with no backup, The additional repairs were deemed to be an emergency, and the vendor was authorized to continue with the repair, bring the centrifuge back up to 100% operation, and reinstall it for the wastewater treatment plant. So that brought the price to approximately just under $73,000. Let me advance my slide here. Okay. It's remaining on this screen even though it advances here. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So I apologize for the mismatch between what I was saying and the screens. Well, something to be said for audience contact. So this slide here gives a quick overview of the costs involved. So the top two centrifuges lines show parts and labor. The next two lines show what's called a rotodiff. That's essentially the machinery that rotates the centrifuge. And with parts and labor, that brings the ultimate cost to $72,921.18. And so the recommendation presented to you this evening is to adopt a resolution affirming both the emergency repair to centrifuge number 1 at the wastewater treatment plant and ratifying the award of contract as an exception to the competitive bidding process. So that's the presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on item D4? The emergency repairs to the centrifuge? Lisa, do we have any members on Zoom or have written comments regarding item D4?
We have none, Mayor.
We'll close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues for discussion and or a motion on item D4. Council Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Just a quick question, timeline-wise, when did this go in for repair?
The bids were obtained in January and went into repair approximately April.
Okay, and so how long did it give us to repair? What was the timeline to repair once it went in April?
It was brought back into service in August.
Okay, and you said that it was for emergency reasons, the bid was extended to have work done when it was completed in August, and here we're now December?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I apologize.
That it was completed in August, and we gave permission to complete this process for emergency reasons to up $39,000 more for repair. But we as council are finding out about it now in December. That's what I'm asking.
I don't have extensive information on the background of it. I can certainly provide that for you regarding that timeline that you asked about. So I can't speak as to why that passage of time existed.
Okay. The second question is, you talk about a backup. How well put together is the first one? If this one now is rebuilt now, ready to go, how is that first one looking? When's the last time we pulled that one for a repair or for an assessment?
I don't have that information at hand. This report focused on the one that was sent out. I do know in discussing with the operators and the manager that there are two that exist. So that they apparently are cycling them, alternating them in and out of basic repair. They're also running them pretty aggressively because that's what's necessary with their capacities at the moment, which does bring with it the fact there is no backup. So when there are repairs made, even minor maintenance has to be done with time of the essence in mind.
Okay. How much would, I don't know if you have the answer to this either, just 100 million questions here. How much would a brand new one cost?
I'm glad you asked, because I did research that question. A new one is about $300,000.
Okay. Do they also do rebuilt ones? Used rebuilt?
There's probably a market for that.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. Okay, thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Seeing no further comments, close public comment.
I will.
And of course, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, I will have one other question, only because you brought up a really good point, is that when the other units are in repair, that leaves us vulnerable. Is it a recommendation that we can have an additional one by any chance? Or, I mean, just in any case that we run into that issue, I mean, obviously that service is the city. And the amount of money that you're asking for repairs and the cost of a new one, does it put us in a better position in any case in the event that something fails?
Councilmember Rodriguez, I can answer that
Please.
question. Try to help David out with this. So we're looking at the costs of new ones, what it would take to, we actually want 3. We want, going with Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos's question as well. The one is now fully rebuilt. The other one, we want to pull that out and rebuild it. So we're looking at buying a brand new one for that. And then the one that we pull out to rebuild, we'll be able to put that on a shelf so that we have 3. So when one does go out, we can always put one in there. So those are situations that we're looking into. We have been for the last couple of months, and we'll make a decision next month.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer, both you and Mr. Hernandez. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I'll ask for a motion from my colleagues.
So move to approve D4 as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve item D4 by Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos, second by Councilmember Montes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Mayor Garcia, we do have one more quick thing. While David is up there, we haven't had a chance to bring him to council for an introduction. So, and then I had a family thing to take care of today, so I wasn't at work today and wasn't able to be there, but in person. But we do want to introduce David. David comes to us. He's got an extensive background. He's worked in the legal field and a few other fields. He's just been a breath of fresh air for us. He's married. He has one daughter in her early 20s. He's member of the Madera community, has been for many years, has established roots here for many, I believe 18 years, if I remember correctly. And so we're just thankful to have him. He's been amazing to only be here 6 weeks. He's already doing a presentation to council. And we're just very lucky to have David. So I want to introduce you to him tonight.
Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
To the Wolves, huh?
Mayor Garcia, I didn't catch his last name and his position.
Austin.
This is David Austin, and his position, he is the administrative analyst for the Public Works Department.
Thank you.
Ready. We will now move on to item E, administrative reports. Item E1 is an informational report. Proposed changes to time parking restrictions within the Madera downtown business improvement area. Mr. Helmuth, do you have this item, Keith?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. And
before we start, are we going to have to do this in 7 minutes?
No, we can finish the item we're on. Okay. We just can't call it before 7 o'clock, and we have to do it immediately after 7 o'clock on the next item called.
Thank you. Go ahead, Keith.
Okay, thanks. Okay, anyway, this is an informational report. It's regarding proposed changes to time parking restrictions within the Madera downtown business district. Just confirming my slide changed, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I'm doing a different thing here, so I just want to make certain I can't see it. Anyway, moving on. Introduction, a little bit of the background. The recent inquiry noting varying timeframes for parking restrictions and possible confusion associated with the varying times within the Madera downtown business improvement area has recently arisen. By the way, I'll refer to the business improvement area as improvement area from here on out. That's how it's referred to in one or two old council reports that I've reviewed. Currently, there's a time frame variation for no parking signs within the improvement area, as well as a few streets just outside of the improvement area. There are signs that are posted as 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Sunday, and there are signs 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Sunday. And a few of those signs, I'm not quite sure how many, include the exception for holidays. The location of the restrictions, don't quite know where this came from. I did spend a few minutes, quite a few minutes in the city clerk's office researching. I have not found any background with regard to how the signs were determined for the various different areas. They may have been part of a master plan that I didn't locate, or it could have been that it was the signs were just installed in a haphazard or piecemeal fashion. What we do know is they don't seem to have followed the city's uniform traffic ordinance, also known as UTO. The UTO allows for a 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Restriction, except Sundays. And the odd thing about the UTO is it says Sundays in parentheses S and holidays. So I'm taking that as meaning that Sundays is optional. This is a map of the signage within the improvement area and a couple streets just outside. The red signs are showing 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., while the green are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So what we're looking at is changing the signage to go to 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It shows a fair number of signs that would need to be replaced. And right now, proposing that those signs be replaced both in the improvement area and just outside the improvement area. The improvement area is outlined in red. The proposed actions would be to implement the consistent signage within and adjacent to the improvement area. I've highlighted the and adjacent to because earlier today I did receive an email that didn't seem to be for the public record, but it was an email that was requesting that signs be removed in front of a particular entity. And indicated that would help their business and their customers. We thought about that particular request a little bit, and from staff's viewpoint, that would probably give a result that's counter to what was hoped. If signs were removed, there's in all likelihood those parking places would be filled with employees, and customers of businesses would not be able to utilize those time zones, and they'd have to go out further looking for parking. In any case, the proposal is to remove the 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. signs, replace them with 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Sundays. Now, as far as the except holidays, right now, staff is not proposing that we make any particular changes. If the except holidays is on some signs, those signs will come down but not be replaced with holidays. And if there are other signs that include holidays, they'll just stay up. We really, as I said before, we really don't know the background and how these signs went up. What we do know is the UTO suggests that we only do, or actually requires that we install signs that say 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. That doesn't preclude council from asking for additional time zones. We would have to do a modification to the, or amendment to the Madera Municipal Code, but that can be done. Proposed actions are just continuing. The cost of this change is expected to be about $1,500. What I understand is going to be like $50-something per sign. We've assumed that there's about 55 signs that would need to be replaced thus far. And then Public Works staff would make those changes, and we would not be looking to go ahead and reimburse that particular cost for labor. It would just be part of a normal workday. And from staff's perspective, limiting park times is imperative. If we don't limit the times, we won't be able to, the businesses won't see turnover, and they might see reductions in business because those spaces are taken by employees parked for the entire day. So the signs did have a purpose, and we believe that purpose is to ensure that customers can readily find their way to businesses. The recommended action, there is no action necessary on this. It is staff's intention right now to go ahead and make that replacement. However, staff is completely open to any recommendations from the City Council. With that, that's the end of my report, and I appreciate any comments.
Thank you, Keith. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak under item E1?
6:59.
Are there any written or Zoom comments?
We have none, Mayor.
Right. We'll close public comment, bring it back to my colleagues for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. I just wanted to thank Keith for that report and saw all the different little stars and give a shout out to Councilman Montes for bringing that to our attention, that we had a lot of citizens concerned about different times on those signs. So thank you for that, Councilman Montes. That's all, Mayor.
Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. The question, and for Chief, do we have any officers that patrol parking by chance? I don't know. I haven't seen them, at least, but I know that when I would go to these cities, it would be like a small little vehicle looking through parking and enforcing that. Is that something that we have here at the City of Madera?
Yes, we have a part-time parking enforcement officer.
Awesome.
Who starts her day at 8 a.m.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Councilmember Montes.
Yeah, are we gonna have to move it to 9 now? No, I'm just kidding. That's probably what prompted some of the questions. I appreciate, Keith, you looking into that, and Arnoldo. Is there, seeing as, the UTO got adopted in 75, and then an expansion happened in 93, and I'm assuming it was partly because of the downtown parking and that expansion, correct?
The downtown business district appears to have been adopted probably in 1983 or so. There have been expansions. I didn't track down. I didn't try very hard to find the exact dates of when the business district was created. The reports I referred to were more expansions of the boundaries of that.
No, and that's okay. And my question, I guess, is just, would it be beneficial to have kind of like a periodic review, or if it's just something that the business districts or businesses down there can inquire about? Because I agree with staff where we need to have some rules, because if there are no rules, we'd probably get in a lot more calls because people wouldn't move. Right now, there are some exceptions that maybe somebody can bring to the table. I mean, I think that's something that we can hear, but I wouldn't be in favor of saying, hey, there's no rules, you can park wherever you want, because that'll cause a lot more problems. Everybody would be mad at me because it'd be getting calls. But is that something that would be recommended, or is it? I mean, if we haven't really had anything since 75 or 93, is it even warranted?
Well, I'm tending to think that the switch from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Probably won't see a big response from the businesses. Most of the retail businesses probably don't open up till 9 or 10. As far as the other entities out there, those would be the ones with regular staff that work through the day. It's not really going to affect them either, because it's not likely that they'll try to go ahead and get the biggest bang for their buck on that closest space and then have to move it 3 hours later. Conceivably, they might be able to go ahead and park for about 4 hours if they park their car at around 7 a.m. But I just don't really see either entity, retail or office, being affected by the change from 7 to 9. But does it make sense to do a review every so often? I'd say I'd like to go ahead and wait and see what we see in terms of businesses' reaction to this change.
Okay, thank you. It'll probably be favorable because they'll be able to park there longer. So, okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to give a shout out to Councilmember Montes for not only bringing forth his residents' concern, but I personally saw him driving out there and taking pictures of the signs. So while we're all having dinner, the council member for District 3 is out there making sure his residents are being heard. Thank you.
Yeah. This is an informational report. There's no action taken. Thank you very much, Keith, for your report.
Thank you.
Do you want to go back to item, remind me which item that was? We will move on to item C2, a public hearing number 2 for updating of city council member district boundaries for annexed properties. Alicia, do you have this item?
I do, Mayor. Thank you.
And this item is informational also.
It is a public hearing, however, no action requested this evening by council. One moment. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, we bring before you public hearing number 2 for updating of City Council member district boundaries for annexed property. This presentation is going to look extremely, works for everybody else except me. Let's see.
I run.
Let's see.
Good now.
Are you? Let's see. Yeah, thank you. As I was mentioning, this presentation is going to look extremely familiar to public hearing number 1 because it is. We just have to kind of go over it one more time as public hearing number 2, except for an updated map, which is going to identify the annexed property by title. So the summary is to provide information on the districting process for properties annexed into the city and the permissible criteria to be considered to modify district boundaries. Also to conduct a public hearing to receive public input on district boundaries to account for property annexed to the city. On April 6, 2022, Council adopted an ordinance amending the Madera Municipal Code regarding by-district elections, adjusting the boundaries of City Council election districts and confirming such revised council boundaries. Some background is there has been significant annexation, including the villages at Almond Grove has occurred since the adoption of the current boundary maps. The recently annexed area is primarily characterized, by agricultural land with several existing homes. Despite being within the city, the annexed area is not currently within any council district. And the lack of assignment Thank you. A modification of the council district boundary maps. In regard to existing districts, Council adopted its current district boundaries based on the 2020 U.S. Census data. Equitable population distribution, the current configuration of the 6 council districts prioritizes approximately equal division based on population. This approach ensures fair and equitable representation for all residents across the districts. And the goal is to avoid population disparities among districts, promoting fairness in the distribution of elected representatives. In regard to the existing districts, its land area versus population, it's crucial to note that while the land area of the districts may differ, the regulatory focus is on population, not land area. This ensures that the distribution aligns with the democratic principles of representation rather than geographical size. This is the map. In the top corner here, in the top left corner of your screen, you'll see the area proposed for District 1, which is the villages at Almond Grove. Here's an aerial view. And for discussion this evening, council typically chooses where the district lines will be drawn every 10 years based on the latest U.S. Census. Between these 10-year updates, changes to district boundaries are typically not allowed under the Elections Code. There is an exception for the new territory has been annexed, and the annexed territory contains less than 25% of the city's population. State law sets strict criteria for these updates, and council must add the new territory to the nearest existing council district without changing other council district boundaries. The procedural requirements are the public will have the opportunity to draw and submit district map for council's consideration, and the city may develop its own maps for consideration. The city must hold at least 4 public hearings that enable community members to provide input on the drawing of district maps. And the mandatory criteria is any annexed property must be added to the nearest existing council district, and no other changes to existing council districts may occur. And tonight's recommendation is to receive a report from staff on the redistricting process and permissible criteria to be considered to redraw district boundaries, and to conduct a public hearing to receive public input on the district boundaries. That will conclude my presentation this evening, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alicia. We will now open this public comment regarding item C2. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak regarding item C2?
Through the mayor, just to be clear, this is a public hearing.
A public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now open public comment. Are any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Do we have any written comments, Alicia? And or do we have any members on Zoom that wish to comment?
No one on Zoom, Mayor. Let me just check my email really quick. Sorry, I closed that. And we have no written public comment, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now close public comment, and I'll bring it back to my colleagues for a discussion on this informational item.
Through the mayor, if there is no discussion, we can go to the next item at your convenience.
Thank you very much. This item is closed. Thank you, Alicia. That was simple, huh? Item E2. Item E2 is a 2024 list of annual proclamations. Alicia, do you have this item too?
I do, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. This evening, I bring before you the 2024 list of annual proclamations. Little bit of background. Earlier this year, City Council approved a resolution officially adopting a chapter within the Protocols Guidebook titled Ceremonial Documents. This resolution represented a significant milestone in establishing comprehensive guidelines to govern various ceremonial documents issued by the city. The policy aims to define the protocols, procedures, and standards concerning the city's ceremonial documents. Part of that policy, in discussion of part of that policy, staff was annually going to prepare the proposed list of proclamations for the upcoming year. Modifications require a majority vote, and council members may submit a request to the city clerk to be omitted from signing any of the proclamations. So before you is a list of the proclamations for 2024. It is very similar to what you all saw in 2023. At the last meeting when we approved the 2023 calendar, we did not have Indigenous Peoples Day. However, it was added at I believe when we took it for approval and for the 2023, we added it at that time. So you'll see that it's now on the 2024 calendar. Other than that, there were no other changes. So this is in January, we have Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month. The recipient is CAPMC. We have National Mentoring Month with the recipient of Big Brothers Big Sisters, National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. Recipient would be Madera PD. And we have in February Black History Month, and that is the recipient at the discretion of council. In March, we have Red Cross Month, and the recipient is American Red Cross. In April, we have Sexual Assault Awareness Month with the recipient of CAPMC. In May, it's a busy month. We have Firefighters Day, May 4th. Our recipient would be our fire department. We have Public Service Week. The recipient would be local government employees. We have Public Works Week, the recipient would then be our Public Works Department. We have CASA Awareness Month, and the recipient is CASA of Madera and Fresno County. We have Relay for Life, and we have our local Relay for Life branch that is recipient of that. And we also have Letter Carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day, and that is our local post office that is a recipient of that. And in June, we have Pride Month. Our recipient is Planned Parenthood, and Juneteenth Day, that's recipient at the discretion of council. In July, we don't have anything calendared at this time. And for August, we have National Senior Citizens Day. If you remember last year, we had some members of our local senior citizen city senior program that attended our meeting and were recipients of that award. In September, we have Old Timers Week, and we have our Madera County Historical Society that is a recipient for that proclamation. And then in October is another busy month with Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Indigenous Peoples Day, and both of those the recipients are at the discretion of council. We have Disability Awareness Month, and we have our ADA Council who has been present to receive that. We also have Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and recipient is CAPMC. Small Business Saturday, also recipient at the discretion of council. And for December, we have none at this time. So tonight's recommendation, staff is recommending council approve the proposed list of proclamations for the upcoming year. And I will now turn it back to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Well done. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment on item E2? Seeing none, Alicia, do we have any written or any comments from our Zoom participants?
We have no written public comment, Mayor, and no one on Zoom.
Thank you. So then we will now close public comment, and I'll bring it back to my colleagues for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. I don't know if my colleagues would entertain in March. It is Women's History Month. We do not have it added on the calendar.
I like that.
For March.
Do you have any, everybody? Good. I didn't. I think you're good.
And would that recipient be at the discretion of council as well? Okay.
Any further comments from my colleagues?
I have a comment.
Councilwoman Mejia.
So on that list, there are some recipients that are already set, but some of the causes, there are more organizations that locally that do the same kind of work. So one that I saw was the Human Trafficking Awareness. I believe it's Olive Foundation that does that kind of work. And then also Sexual Assault Awareness Month. For the CASA one, I looked up, was that something that was done locally? Because I didn't find anything even on their website about CASA Awareness Month.
I believe they requested it.
Oh, okay.
They've sent us requests in the past.
Oh, okay. So I guess for the ones that, for the causes that there's more than one group or organization locally, I think that that would make more sense to have that also be at the discretion of council rather than this permanent recipient.
Okay.
Would you mind putting up that on the screen again,
Yes.
the list? Are you finished?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was, that was going to be my point.
No, go ahead. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So are there specific ones, Mayor or Councilwoman Mejia, that you want to identify to rotate or not rotate, but list as recipient at the discretion of council?
Yeah, the ones that stood out to me were the Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I was just looking for clarification on CASA Awareness Month, like whether that existed.
Okay. So we can switch those to recipient at the discretion of council as if that's.
And oh, sorry, Alicia.
No, it's okay.
Also Pride Month.
Oops, I did not mean to do that. I think in the past, for example, Pride Month, the reason we have them listed as titled as the recipients, and probably for the others as well, is because they have requested their organizations have requested from us the proclamation. So it's not necessarily that we've assigned them to assign them. It's because they have asked in the past for the proclamation itself. So that's how those are identified.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just because I know that there's a Gay Straight Alliance Club at the local high school. And then I also have information that there's a coalition that's being formed locally to advocate for the gay community.
And that could be changed. That's at the discretion of council.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was following her. So I agree that there are some that might be overlapping, and I think it would be advantageous for us to also recognize different groups that do these types of things. So I would be open to that also. Councilmember Montes.
So I just wanted to add that for CAPMC, they most likely reached out to us, and we do have a permanent appointment to that board that comes from this board. So we have an appointment. So one of us is always going to be on that board. We have a really good relationship with them, and they're the ones that usually are promulgating those 3 events. Just wanted to add that.
Well, I would say that it would be okay for us to be able to have other groups acknowledged for their works in, for instance, victim services, domestic violence. And it's not to take away from any organization, but just to be able to share that there are other organizations doing the same work within our community of Madera.
I want to clarify that for anything that has to do with, like, if we have city, like firefighters, police department, I think that we would want to acknowledge first our city departments. So for any of those proclamations that have to do with that, like national law enforcement, I'd, be okay with keeping our police department. But anything else, I would be in favor of just keeping it recipient at the discretion of council.
I agree.
Okay.
Thumbs up for it.
So for those 3, right?
No, all of them. Other than
so what I'm hearing is for all except for the recognition of our local employees, for example, public service. Let me start from the top. Law Enforcement Day, we are keeping with the police department. Firefighters Day, our fire department. Public Service Week, Public Works Week, we are keeping. National Senior Citizens Day, we are keeping. And I believe I see Disability Awareness Month. Our ADA usually receives that. And that's the other one I see. All the others would be at recipient at the discretion of council, is what I'm understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So typically with these other organizations that want to partake in this, would there be an issue in trying to not consolidate, but provide them each their own proclamation on that same given day? And there's other groups that want to partake. So is it at the discretion of council? Like what you have right now, for example, on CAPMC with victim services, if there was any other service groups that were part of that, would it be an inconvenience to print two proclamations?
It would not.
Or would that still be at the discretion of council?
That would be at the discretion of council. We'd have a very busy photo day. But no, it wouldn't be an issue. It would just be if you want to recognize two agencies rather than the one, then we would just provide two certificates, and that's at the discretion of council.
Yeah, that way we're not denying anybody.
And what I guess what I'm trying to get at is that all these folks that are listed as recipients, are they year after year? Are
Yes.
they making their trips out?
They are. Yes, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yes, the names that you see listed they're the ones who are reaching out to us every annually to receive those proclamations.
I guess my point, if we have discretion at council, is one of us here going to appoint, or is one of us, or collectively, are we going to have the discretion to say, well, this year we're going to go with that person, or we're going to choose another person, instead of just those that are interested in participating on that specific proclamation? I mean, I don't foresee that we're going to have a huge amount of people, right? I mean, if there is a specific service groups is what I mean, not necessarily people, but groups that want to partake in that proclamation. So if there's 3 for 1, then I would think that we're going to have to decide or choose on who of those 3, or
the discretion of council. I think eventually would probably come to council.
Yeah, I'm just looking out for future councils. Are we going to keep track of that every year?
I mean, I just don't see a problem with us giving 3 proclamations if there's 3 organizations, because we don't certainly want to deny any organizations that's doing the good works. And I don't think 3 is over the top. But we can discuss that as council. We can say there's this organization that'd like to receive a proclamation, and there's another one that would also like to receive a proclamation. I don't see a problem with that. I think Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos had the next word.
As long as they're local, I'm okay about doing proclamations for more than one. As long as they're in the city of Madera. That's important. Or the county. That's all, Mayor.
Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. And while we have this calendar up, I'd like to make the recommendation for Indigenous Peoples Day. I would like to recommend that the recipient in 2024 be La Mesa Directiva de Santa Maria Tindu for their presence in Madera for more than 4 decades and their commitment by organizing cultural efforts that have drawn people in Madera, outside of Madera, as far away as Oregon. And that's the Chilena Festival that they have every year, and that it's almost 2 decades. So if that's my recommendation for this year's Indigenous Peoples Day recipient.
I think then we're going back to this question of having only one organization as to allowing other organizations to be part of this. Because now we're going back to the same argument that
Yeah, it's at discretion of council. But
Yeah, I think that's at the discretion of council, Mayor.
Oh, all right. So leave it at the discretion of council then.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see who's Councilwoman Evans.
Yes, in reference to each one of these, I'm okay with the recipient being at the discretion of council, but if you have more than one organization that's doing something in that month and they come to us for a proclamation, are we now going to just say, okay, well, we already gave one to this organization and we're not going to do for the other? Or why we should be able to give to each organization that is trying to do something that for the good of our city and coming out? Are we going to give to each one of those organizations, or are we going to just start now limiting to those who first come, first serve?
I don't believe anyone decided that.
I think we have a list of the proclamations already scheduled for year 2024. And if I hear you correctly, Councilwoman Evans, are you saying that from this list, if someone else wanted to partake in that same, for example, National Mentoring Month, if it was someone outside the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, would we give them an opportunity without the discretion to want to jump in and get a proclamation? But I think the list is already there, set out for the year 2024. were you referring to maybe adding as they come?
No, yes, pretty much, because just say that for Sexual Assault Month, it's CAPMC, okay? But now what if another group has a home, or if there's something that they're doing and they come because they're going to have a function and they would like to have a proclamation in reference to their function for the Sexual Assault Month? Are we going to limit it to that, to just the one, or are we going to give to multiple, or we just have the one that we've chosen and that's it?
So I think that was the point of having the policy. So if somebody wants a proclamation recognition, they have to fall into the policy that the council voted on. And I think that was kind of the point of having that policy, to kind of keep things straight. So, I mean, it looks like we have some discretion now to do some of these and to name some of these. I don't know if everybody's prepared to do that. But again, the policy is pretty clear when, who gets a proclamation, who gets certificate of recognition. And, people are doing good work all the time in the community, but I believe that's why the council put forth that policy to basically determine who gets what.
And okay, so we'll get to you in a second, Councilmember Rodriguez. As I understood it, Councilmember Mejia, and I repeated, but I could be wrong. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that we were going to keep the city proclamations in place because there were cities, fire department, police department, local government employees, et cetera. But the other ones we were going to leave at the discretion, which would then allow other groups that are doing works at the same time to also receive a proclamation. So that's what I would like to see, is giving other organizations the opportunity and not have this set in stone just for these organizations, because they're doing good work. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I just want to see other organizations that are doing the work also, and to give them recognition and give them a proclamation.
Right.
And that's what I thought we were at.
Right.
Am I right?
Right. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily talking about the quantity, about 2, 3. I think that, like Alicia said, councils should keep in mind how long that would make your meeting. It was more of having a fair opportunity for people that are doing the same work in the community, while keeping recognitions for city employees.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was going. So do you need, this is, oh my gosh, I'm losing it right now
for approve the list.
So the direction I understand I have, Mayor, is the list. We are going to all accept what is listed as recognition recipients for the city. All the other recipients are going to be recipient at the discretion of council. That's the direction I'm understanding.
That's correct.
And I recommended one recipient.
We have 4 thumbs up. All righty.
Already.
All right. Thank you very much, Alicia.
Thank you.
Just so I am clear.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
That's why you're here, brother. Believe me.
Just want to be clear. Everything is at the discretion of the council on this list. We are adding the Women's History Month to March. The ones that are not the council's discretion are what we call the city items, PD, fire, and everything else. Okay. Now, I don't want to toss anything on the fire because it's late at night, but my other question is, January only has 1 meeting, and this is the only meeting before January. Did the council want to identify any tonight, or are you planning on doing that in January?
Put that back on the screen, Alicia, please.
It's going to be CAPMC, so human trafficking, National Mentoring Month, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and then National Law Enforcement Police Department. That one's not going to change. So it's only going to be the 2. Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month, CAPMC, Victim Services, and then National Mentoring Month, Big Brothers and Big Sisters are the 2 that are in January. I would say we should keep the January ones, and
gee,
so
what a surprise.
Sorry.
So we have a list.
So you're asking?
I would ask that we add to January Olive to the human trafficking in addition to CAPMC. Would that be acceptable?
Go for it.
Yeah. 4 thumbs up on that. So we're good, Shannon?
I think Councilwoman Mejia wanted to add the one person, the recipient for her Indigenous people. Is that correct, Councilwoman?
Yeah, I did.
We thumbs up
I
that.
think
Yeah.
we had a thumbs up.
Shannon didn't
Excellent.
say
Thank
that.
you. I couldn't remember the full name. I am so sorry.
La Mesa Directiva de Santa María Tino.
Can you repeat that for
May I
me?
repeat it, please?
Alicia's got it for you, brother. She'll give you a call.
All right.
Thank you.
So I think we're good for next January.
Hey.
I think everything else has been approved. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Okay. Thank you, Alicia. We will now move on to item F. Item F, council member reports, announcements, future agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for the mayor and council members to make brief reports on boards, committees, and other public agencies, and at public events, to request updates, to initiate future agenda items, and to take action on matters initiated under this section of the agenda. Under this section, the council may take action only on items specifically agendized and which meet other requirements for action. Mayor Pro Tem Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. First shout out goes to Parks and Grants Department and our Max drivers for the Jolly Holly Tour and the Winter Wonderland that happened this weekend. What an amazing opportunity for our community to have for that Friday night of something to do. And then they had us stop and had cocoa and cookies, had a lot of people, a lot of happy faces, also got the glow-in-the-dark necklaces provided by the City of Madera. Happy holidays. I also would like to thank our community members. A shout out to the owners of the Ice House. We've had a lot of homeless problems. Our PD is there quite often. They did fence that in, and so now there is not going to be that problem there in the city where we're constantly putting a lot of our time and effort there. Thank you, Public Works Department. We have a lot of water coming, and you're clearing those inlet outlets to make sure we don't float away here in the city of Madera. We have a lot to do. The rain keeps coming. God bless us for that. So hang in there, Public Works, and our police officers out there in that rain. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to say for those folks that reside on Mainbury, they do a great job of keeping up their lights. It's not the Christmas tree lane, but it certainly can work up to that every year that I drive through there every day. So every year I see more and more lights and more neighbors wanting to partake. So Councilwoman Gallegos, thank you for sparking up that interest in a lot of your neighbors there. Certainly looking really nice. I do want to just give another shout out to Gary again for all that you've done for the city. That big task of Village D, couldn't have done that without you. Thank you so much. I will be definitely missing you, and we wish you the best in your new endeavors. So thank you. That's all that I have, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Montes.
I also want to shout out to Parks for the Holly Jolly Tour. I think they were at capacity again, right? I think that's a couple years in a row they're at capacity. So I don't know, some people jockeying for seats. So maybe we can, I don't know, just get a bigger bus or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll take my truck.
Buses, yeah.
But thank you. It was really fun. There was a bunch of kids. It wasn't as cold this year, so maybe that had a little bit better of a turnout. But there was a bunch of kids that were really happy. Thank you to the food bank. They did a food drive this last weekend, and a toy giveaway. CHP. Thank you for being out there and serving our community. Thank you to Police Officers Union. It was a fun holiday event. A lot of happy faces. Everybody seemed like they were just having a lot of fun. So thank you for the invite there. Gary as well, thank you for all your service to the city. I'm sure you're not going to miss me calling you and bugging you about weird stuff and people have questions on, because like the council member said, it's embarrassing me, but I do drive around when people call me and I take pictures and I send them to people. And then welcome aboard David. When I first saw him here, he was getting ready to present. I was like, who's this person here? But, glad he's aboard. He handled himself well. And, 6 weeks already presenting to the council, asking him a bunch of questions about washing machines and stuff. So, so thank you. That's my report.
Councilwoman Evans.
Yes, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to each and every one of you, because we won't be seeing each other until next year. So I want to say thank you, each and every one of you. Our Christmas extravaganza was a huge success. We have multiple toys, and that's a blessing for the children at James Monroe Elementary. We kind of had a mess up because we were going to go out and distribute toys to the children, and then we realized the children are still in school. So instead, now we couldn't go out to take the toys out as far as delivering to the home. So this time we will be at James Monroe on Friday. If anyone is wanting to come out and help us to distribute toys, the children will be coming in around 2:30-ish, and we will have Santa and cookies. I have about 120 cookies in my car right now for Friday afternoon. And we have the fire department and PD and whomever else, Mr. Mayor, and anyone else wishing to come and stand around and greet the babies as they come in the door and hand out toys. So it'll be a fun time. Even though we're not in the streets, we will be at the school, and it'll be a blessing. So to each and every one of you, God bless you. Happy New Year, and we will see you soon. And I'm out.
Councilwoman Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. Gary, thank you for your service. Dave, welcome. I also wanted to bring again a request that I had made at the end of last year, and that was to have an interpreter and a translator on site at every meeting. During this year, there were several occasions where, even though we had anticipated monolingual Spanish speakers here, there was issues with the equipment, or at one point there was even interpretation being done where we had to speak really slow to make sure that was getting through. And I think that those logistical issues, they they unfairly set back people in the community that only speak Spanish. I remember even Councilwoman Evans, you might remember this, and you had pointed out how this is even an issue for people who only speak English when they're listening to those who speak Spanish, and they can't have that live interpretation. So my request again is to have an interpreter at every meeting, whether there are people that requested with anticipation or not.
Councilmember Villegas.
Thank you, Mayor Santos Garcia. I just want to say that thank you, Recreation and Parks Departments. You're doing a good job. And I would say thank you, everybody, for a great year. And Merry Christmas to every one of you. And be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say that attending the MPOA event was one of the highlights of this holiday season. It was great to see our folks out there joined by their family and friends. Going out to Sierra Vista Elementary School, and the children there being treated by businessman Mike Alamari to hoodies to protect them from the cold as a gift for the holiday season was a special event. Watching those children receive those hoodies and jumping around, dancing around, and putting them on. I spoke to a mother 3 days later, and the child that she had at the Sierra Vista had not taken that hoodie off and has been wearing it for 3 days. She said, she said, thanks, Mike, a lot for that hoodie for her, but say it's okay to wash it and change it into something else. So I thought that was kind of funny. Councilwoman Evans, as always, every year you do a fantastic job putting on the Christmas extravaganza and getting those toys. Fantastic job. Kudos to you for getting that done. I know it's a lot of work. I've seen the work that you're doing and badgering people to give you donations and making sure they contribute something. And so, yeah, I think that was fantastic. And of course, there are multiple religious events, posadas in particular, that we've attended, a bunch of them. We just attended one today, put on by Visión y Compromiso, where Santa gave presents to children and hot chocolate and coffee for the folks and cupcakes galore. So anyway, the holiday season, as I said the other day, brings out the best in people. I think that it's a joyous time to be with friends and family. We represent multiple faiths in our communities. We represent multiple communities in our very own community. And we respect that and we acknowledge the differences that we have in our community. And to me, it's a joyous time. And I wish everyone in our communities and anyone who's within earshot of us to enjoy the holiday season, regardless of your faith. Thank you very much. And we hope that you have a joyous time with your friends and family. I'm going to be having my tamales this weekend. And so I'm going to be very happy come this weekend. So anyway, thank you very much for attending tonight's meeting. Thank you all staff for your reports.
Before we break, I'm sorry. I did hear Councilwoman Mejia requesting the interpretation services, and I just want to make sure that was direction of the council. And adding to that is that we bring it back for discussion with services, some type of software or something that we can add. Is that kind of to your, or just have a live interpreter?
Thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez. Not necessarily services, but to have an interpreter on site.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I would agree to bring that back.
Some way, shape, or form.
Okay, so staff can definitely bring that back. Is that a majority of the council come wishing to bring that back? I'm trying to count. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll bring that back, council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Thank you very much. Good night. And take us into closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 3 items for closed session. First one is G1, conference with legal counsel anticipating litigation, deciding whether to initiate litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.94, one case. G2 is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, title city manager. And G3 is conflict of labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, unrepresented employee city manager. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we are ready to reconvene this meeting at 8:35. Shannon, would you bring us back from closed session, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no reportable action taken in closed session.
Thank you very much. Our next meeting dates are Wednesday, January 17th, 2024, and Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
24. Yeah.